Welcome back. Time to work on my overview. I logged into the game and I don't know what happened, but my overview was randomly reset. So, if you don't see me in your chat room, that is why. I am in the process of reconfiguring everything. And the stupid thing about this is that I found the cache files, the backup file, found everything, but I can't get it to read it. It's the most screwed up thing. So I said, okay, fine. I will just redo everything. And this right here, I don't want to say that it's a pain, but it's a crucial thing to do. Your overview and your scanner can save you. And one of the drawbacks of being in high sec is taking advantage or taking for granted when you have an overview that is not optimally set up. I did a WoW video not too long ago, and in the video, if you were paying attention, I had an add-on where I went to a quest giver and it automatically accepted it. There was no way I could read it, and it can actually, if I set it up that way, pick the quest rewards for me. I don't even have to think. All I have to do, it points me in the direction, shows me a picture of what I have to kill. It makes it very, very simple. And that add-on is good for making alts. I would not suggest it for people that are going through the game the first time. Experience the game and learn. But for people making alts, which is very common, going through that leveling process, it does help because you've already been through it. Why go through it again? Well, that kind of attitude, even with an alt in Eve, can get you blown up. And that's why I'm trying to, I've mentioned before, change those lazy habits, because it can cause you to lose ship, particularly in high sec, because it makes it more forgiving. It was a really big eye-opening experience when Amani and I went into low sec, and we didn't know what we were talking about. It's stuff that never comes up or rarely comes up in high sec. So it's stuff that you learned but didn't have to apply. So for me, it's sort of like it's in a file. Have you ever had, you know that there's like a file in a file cabinet, and you've gone through back and forth and you cannot find that file, but you know that it's there, and then you walk away and then you come back, fresh mind, and then boom, there it is. So it was like that. We were saying, we sounded so freaking paranoid in there, and not understanding between when something is cloaked and when it shows on the overview. Oh my goodness. So to make it clear, even when you're cloaked, you show up on the overview. It's not like a wormhole. But we were just completely paranoid because we weren't used to being in that situation. So it was very good practice. If I had had my overview set up, which you saw in that video, I did not have my overview set up. So he would be talking about things, and I'm scrolling up and down trying to find it, and it's like, okay, fine. It's time to get it redone. And I redid it, and then Eve randomly reset it the other day, because you could see in the last video I had the colored tabs and everything. Yeah, and I can't export them. At least in this one, I can't export them. I don't know why. I tried. I imported the Sarah's overview thing and immediately went to export it just in case I logged out and came back and something was weird. Couldn't export it. So anyway, I'm still setting this up. And even doing this, some of these things, I question the order. You know, I mean, do I really care? Here's the difference between high sec and low sec. In high sec, you really don't care if somebody was in your fleet, in your corporation. In high sec, usually the people in your fleet, the people in your corp, and the people in your alliance are going to be, um, will have the standing that's above terrible, bad, criminal suspect. You see what I'm saying? So having them that high up on the list, I would prefer to have pilot is a criminal, pilot is suspect over fleet and corporation. Now, actually, now that I think about it, since I have the safety feature on, even if somebody in my fleet was a criminal or a suspect or had terrible standing or bad standing, wouldn't it warn me because they're in my fleet that I'm about to shoot them? That's a negative act? That's a good question. The corporation one doesn't even apply. Matter of fact, I probably could pull that one down, but I won't. Because I'm in my own corp and I'm not adding anybody. So, yeah. So, anyway, I am working on this. And while I am working on this, industrials are being rebalanced. CCP Rise did a post, and it says the way we're accomplishing the ship rebalancing is by setting up two distinct roles within each race's industrial lineup, and also making sure that from race to race you have comparable power rather than just having an 85 be king ruler of industrials. One of those roles is focused purely on cargo capacity, sacrificing survivability and speed, and the other gives up cargo for substantially higher base HP and align time, along with improved signature radius and base speed. Unfortunately, while we had some neat ideas, we weren't able to agree on something fun to do with the extra innies that Mimitar and Galente have without either creating substantial race imbalance or needing major resources that we would rather commit elsewhere. For now, these ships will be balanced around the others, falling somewhere between the two roles described above. See the second post, and I'm about to tell you about the second post. And then in that first post, they give the ship fittings. And I will link to it in the description box below so that you can check it out. Now, the second post goes on to say there have been some concerns that the role focused on tank and speed is not actually tanky enough. It is true that they will still be vulnerable to suicide ganks and easily killed outside of high sec, but relative to their former variations, they have gained quite a bit of power. The tank-focused role is getting about 50% more base HP than the old Iteron 5, and most of it lies in structure, where a simple DCU will add a lot of effective points for very little cost. On top of that, they have increased fitting, much better align time, and higher base velocity. Overall, this should provide for a real decision when picking a hauler. Just remember that at the end of the day, it is still a T1 hauler. Now, I admit, when I saw still vulnerable to suicide ganks, it rubbed me the wrong way. But at first, to suicide ganks and easily killed out of high sec, because to me it's like, well, then why bother? Why bother? But they are T1 haulers, and T1 haulers should not be the Mac Daddy of ships. That's what your freighter is for. A hauler is supposed to be something that you work towards. You know, it was particularly your T1s, and then you go to a T2, and then you go to a freighter. I went Actually, I did go freighter orca. Actually, um, but I definitely, at some point, depending on how your skill base is, it's like, okay, if they're vulnerable to suicide gangs, then why would you get one? Why not just wait until you can use something else that's more secure? Or if you need ISK, sell by buy order. You know what I mean? But anyway, okay. Let's continue. I want to assure everyone that I'm very sensitive about this, and we all agree that it is a lot of fun, a lot of value in variation and racial identity. They were talking about the CSM saying that they feel like all the ships are sort of the same. The challenge with industrials is that, unlike most other classes, their value rests almost exclusively in one or two attributes: capacity and low slots. So, when attempting to add flavor, the reality is that we would simply be limiting actual options. I have tried to preserve as much racial flavor as possible via some slot differences in speed and align time, SIG, and little things like Keldari being the only race with launchers on their industrials. At a higher level, we really do feel that because this class is so specific in function, consolidating all of the industrials into one or two ships would probably be the most sensible design, but because we value history and racial flavor, we've left all the ships available and tried to find enough variation to make each valuable in their own way. Lastly, I want to talk about the last four industrials. They were an incredibly hot topic here at the office, and we considered a really wide range of options for them. In the end, we felt that removing them from the game probably didn't add a lot of value and would have been a disappointing departure from EVE history. But on the other hand, giving them a job that was interesting and valuable but only available for Galente and Mimitar felt unfair. Our hope is that sometime in the near future, perhaps because of a new industry development, we will find a home for them that either makes them make sense with the current assets or warrants adding additional industrial ships to the game to balance out all of those interons. Until then, they will be a bit marginalized. I hope that because of having real choices within the two new roles, you will see the class as gaining a lot of depth despite four of the ships falling outside of those roles. That's a tough call. And I give them props for wanting to keep the lore in the game and valuing the history. I I'm totally down with that. I don't know. Now that I can fly, I don't have, but I can fly. A freighter. I never bothered to get a mammoth because I said, what's the point? I have the wreaths that were, from newbie missions, but I never got the mammoth. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Like I said, I'm going to link to it at the bottom. Um, it's a really tough thing because, in truth, you really could knock it down to, like one or two ships and be done with it. Ah, I don't know. I compliment them on trying. Let's put it like that. But I think what's going to end up happening is that people are still going to pick, the specific ships. Like the Sigil is still going to be the one for cargo hold. You know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think. What do you use these things? Here's a very good question. I do have a Sigil. And like I said, instead of going up to like a mammoth, like a T2, I just went back and forth in my Sigil and tried to keep my hauling to a minimum. Uh, But I know lots of people that use like a Mammoth all the time with no problem. So if you use these ships, how do you feel about it? I like the change to the Sigil, but like I said, at the end of the day, I can use something better, so this doesn't really apply to me. Although, let me rephrase that. These ships might be good for a quick trip to, like to the Dixie or to Jita. No, I wouldn't take it to Jita. No, I wouldn't take it to Jita. No, that's just like asking to get blown up 50 million times in something that's fragile. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. And how's the overview coming? I'm almost afraid to ask. But if there's something that I should have been doing that I didn't do, let me know. And I am loving the scanner. I'm doing Jaspit. I never would have found this if they hadn't redone it. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love that scan animation. People hate it. I absolutely love it. Doesn't, as you can see, it doesn't hit my system hard at all or anything like that. So, okay, let me know what you think about the industrials, and maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I should be using them more, and I'm not. And I will see you guys in the next one.